Hello everyone, Alpha Dave here coming at you with another video. Stuff that you've probably heard before because it's really debated on the internet a lot, but I still thought I'd given my share of opinions in there. Being a minority myself living in a western country, it's always great to hear opposing opinions from people who are supposed to feel empowered by woke trends, but aren't necessarily. So as the title of the video said, this is a topic that is well known and quite controversial at time. Diversity in, entertainment media. Does ethnic minority representation matters? Now, by today's demographic and social structures in Western countries, the answer is obvious. It does. It really does. On the other side, people yells back the same popular answer. Oh my god, grow up. It doesn't matter what gender or color a character is. They should never be the point or focus of a story. I never cared or look about that. I just want good characters with nice personality. Now, this answer, while popular and pretty fair, is quite disingenuous and oversimplify things a little. As a minority myself, I thought I'd chime in and give some actual explanation on why the way things are executed currently is rather problematic and embarrassing. Not only to the minorities themselves, but also to, well, the white majority, right? And I'm no coon for saying that, honestly. For this specific video, I'll focus mostly into visual representation in entertainment media. Movies, games, comic books, TV show, and all that. And by representation here, I'm mostly talking about ethnic and racial diversity, not gender. So the whole man-woman ratio on screen and genderism stuff here is not really taken into account. That will be kept for another topic. Alright, let's begin with the cons. Because the arguments in favor of diversity are so popular, common, mainstream, and progressive, let's start with the opposite side. I thought it'd just make things a bit more interesting because there's so many... There's already plenty of YouTubers out there explaining why the way things are handled right now is rather problematic. But mine is a bit more explanative because I'm really going to try and put myself in the role of a white man here. What are the cons of quote-unquote forced diversity? Here I'm using the word force because there is obviously an agenda at play here. The past decade has seen an odd increase of usually non-white characters in roles that does not quite feel as natural on screen as they probably intended. Some might say that it's the New World Order or the Jews did it. Pushing an agenda to destroy white male in his society, the authenticity of his culture. Others are blaming feminism, minority themselves, the list goes on really. Obviously, while the whole thing is there to cater and pander to a certain public, I really don't think anybody's trying to destroy society or anybody here. Some of the people pushing these new standards are doing so in hope that future generation will see characters past colors and ethnicity on screen. I really think the goal of all that is really so that in the future, people will just see beyond color. People will see beyond color. But I digress here. I'm supposed to be talking about the disagreements of the pro-diversity stance. First, let's look at it at a demographic and cultural standpoint. There are various countries on this planet, each with unique cultures, history, subset of dogmas, tradition, and of course, race and ethnicities. The common cultures, history, beliefs, and values shared by these people from the same ethnicity bonds them and connects them socially to each other. The connection and the bonds also comes from the fact that they share the same physical similarities due to shared ancestors and gene, so it goes way beyond than just culture and language. People that shares the same ethnicity in a country are almost like, let's say, faraway brothers and cousins to each other. Faraway brothers and sisters. They are united by a common denomination. When these people watch any form of media or attend social, cultural, and political activities, they want to see a brother, a parallel of themselves, basically someone that speaks for them and represents them. This is a really human, natural, let's say biological thing. Somebody that is related to them, because biologically, it's very normal for humans and animals to follow peers that share closer genes and physical resemblances to them. Their blood links them as one people, one nation, one country. Most countries have a majority demographic, not all but most. Usually said majority holds most of the power, whether it is, political influence, cultural, and social. Putting somebody from another cultural or ethnic heritage on screen will create alienation, disaffection, and estrangement from said majority. So why is the majority often worried or disturbed when they see different faces on their screen? Is it long prehistoric primal fear of seeing an intruder coming into the tribe or their villages? Well, kind of. Let's pretend I'm a white man, I'm watching TV, and I'm a huge fan of fantasy settings or, middle-aged medieval settings, and I'm watching, an old depiction of, Arthur and the knights, with the Holy Grail and all that stuff. And then one of the knights of the round table is a black man. And I'm gonna just, what goes through my head is like, hey, wait a minute, this country, this land, it's our home. This is a story of our culture. We created this. So who is this man? Is he supposed to represent me or my ancestors? What does he know about our culture? What does he know about us? And most importantly, how am I supposed to identify with this person that looks nothing like me or my ancestors? Do they even, respect our values? Understand that every civilization and nation want to serve the best interest, of their people, the one who built the place. And sometimes that is the current majority. Most monoethnic countries respect this very simple principle. It's a way of, let's call it self-preservation against foreign cultures, foreign people that come into your home. You want to protect the practices of your revered ancestors. You want them to stay alive, and you want your culture of your ancestor. You want that culture to stay alive and progress through time. The people of said country creates media, arts, and crafts that represents them under their best light and interest. It isn't quite fair that the people who built and created said media are in a perfect position to figure and display whoever they want within it. It's not their job to represent other races or culture and their creation and their craft. Especially this is a craft they did and tribe it to their own culture, their own literature, or their own people. It's the job of the minority and the foreigner to make media that represents him and his peers under his best light and for his interest. And at best, avoid to trouble and disturb the market of the majority. I would even go further and add that minority, if said minority is an immigrant and not native to the land, they're definitely not in a fair position to demand cultural changes in a country that is not historically or culturally theirs. Even though when I say something like that, we might go into the whole, white Americans are not native to America and all that stuff, but you get the whole picture here. I'm not done yet. Let's talk about quotas, checklists, and forced insertion. Not only such concepts are incredibly stupid, they're borderline authoritarian. Even when I was young, when I learned that American movies were forced to display a certain ratio of black characters, I thought that was incredibly nonsensical. No wonder why they killed their black characters first. They were really never necessary to the story. They were simply there because they had to be. To say we need X amount of gender or race in a production is not only harmful, but also greatly dangerous to the artistic integrity and creative freedom of said production. It completely ruins the legitimacy and genuine intent behind the work. The vision of the author gets completely denaturalized, filtered, and corrupted by the political bill of virtue signaling and inclusion. I remember cringing when I was watching The Hobbit, Smaug's Desolation, the second movie. And right in the center of a shot, there was this veiled black woman, holding a baby, and somehow you could feel that she did not really fit in the whole scene. She did not feel natural in the setting. We're in a medieval fantasy isolated village. Back in the days, villagers were quite wary of strangers, especially those who looked nothing like them and who came from faraway lands. Seeing this lady right in the middle of a shot within the crowd, she definitely popped out, at least to me. The only black lady of the village, the whole act, the whole movie, the whole trilogy. Hell, the only black character from the whole Tolkien cinematic universe. She definitely was there for the quota checklist. It definitely breaks the immersion and suspicion of disbelief. Try to picture diversity being, pushed and pushed into the whole Middle Earth Lord, for example, on a massive scale. I know it's a world where there are elves, there are orcs, dwarves, and a variety of humanoid race. But listen, the Tolkien universe, at best, is intimately tied to Western European folklore, myths, and legend. It is literally a classical and epic tribute to the imagination and beliefs of white people from European descent. There should be no shame in a work such as The Hobbit or Lord of the Ring to praise and celebrate white European culture and even features through songs, music, dances, and visuals. I would expect no less from a Western African folklore tale. So I would really encourage more brothers and sisters to create their own Western African epic universe. And no, Wakanda doesn't count. Alright, last point before going to the arguments in favor of diversity. I just really wanted to put emphasis on the social and cultural aspect of the whole thing. Having characters that resembles us as a group always strengthens the bounds and togetherness of a nation. That means that in the end, we can often mock and joke about each other for everything and nothing without it ending into a full-blown crisis or social indignation. By that, we avoid common issues such as cultural appropriation and racial mock caricature such as blackface. White people can make fun of other white people, Asian of other Asian, and blacks can freely jokes on other black. So no risk of social backlash or uproar over misrepresentation of a race, ethnicity, or a culture. I mean, even when they do represent minorities today, there's still a lot of backlash over small concerns and issues. I remember years ago, back in 2008 or 2007, there was a game called Mirror's Edge, and the first trailer of the game was uncovered. It was shown, and there has been some sort of like minor backlash. For some reason, some Asian people were not satisfied with the way Faith, the Asian protagonist of the game, looked like. They thought that her eyes were too slanted. They thought that they were exaggerated and that the character was more like an European caricature of what they thought an Asian looked like. For me, she looked like an Asian model, like a really pretty Asian model. But for them, I guess they didn't like to be represented in this way. I don't know. I mean, then again, it was really a small group of people. On the black side, there were some minor uproar over Tiana, the princess from the Frog Princess, being lighter skinned and displayed as racially ambiguous in the Ralph Breaks the Internet movie. I mean, I can see how that might be offensive to some dark-skinned girl, but at this point, there's so many bullshit uproars similar to this that I just shout to black people, well, how about we make our own princess movie so that we can display ourselves exactly the way we want to be displayed? White people make fun of gingers all the time and even always jokes about, the whole all blondes are dumb stereotype. Yet there's no uproar over that because at the end of the day, it's still white people friendly teasing each other for their genetic features, be it big nose, hair texture, or skin tone. There's little to no risk of national chaos, or as I said earlier, and the general peace and cohesion of the community is maintained. On the financial side, remember that the creators of entertainment are trying to sell a product to a specific audience. It just happens that this audience is the majority and it is white. So, I mean, they're the one that holds the majority of the money. Don't shame creators on trying to sell to a market that holds the purchasing power. The purchasing power. That's as objective as I could get on this subject. And I really put myself in the skin of the people who are angry about the way things are currently. And I kind of guess this is what they're worried about. So of course, by the way, I'm completely against white people depicting themselves in roles that are not original or natural to them too. So the whole white people featuring themselves as Egyptians, as Hebrews in Jesus movies, or as Asian or Middle Eastern, I have a huge issues against that. Now I'm eager to show the points of the other side.